Thank you, Dan. I first heard our next speaker some years ago when there was a national security summit here in New Hampshire. He has written a book called The Red-Green Axis, which contains an excellent overview of some of the challenges that we're facing with the combination of Marxist ideology and immigration, and Islamic supremacism that have been forces recently in the United States and elsewhere. And he is one of these people who works tirelessly, does his research, and is a real fighter for the United States of America. He also runs an email newsletter, a private email newsletter. You can visit his table outside and talk to him about that, as well as pick up a copy of his book, The Red-Green Axis. Please join me in welcoming Jim Simpson.
Wow, this has been one heck of a rousing time, hasn't it? Man, all these speakers, a lot of my friends, they put me to shame. I don't know how I'm ever going to equal what they've said and how they've inspired everybody. But you're all in a great mood? You'll get over it, don't worry. So, no, we still don't have that. I am going to take a moment for a short, crass commercial message. I have written this book, which Jim mentioned, The Red-Green Axis, Refugees, Immigration, and the Agenda to Erase America. It's a great book. It is a deep dive into the refugee resettlement program from the correct perspective, probably the first one that's ever been done. And you can have it for the easy price of $10 at my booth. Of course, the Center for Security Policy, which publishes it, provides a free PDF download, which totally destroys my marketing plan. And what can I do? But anyway, so it's a very good book. Very important you get it. The most important reason is I need the money. So, okay, so the red-green axis. We are at a crucial turning point. I have named this presentation 0 Hour, Our Last Chance to Save America, because that's really exactly what it is. That's where we are, and I think you all sense it if you don't know it implicitly or explicitly. We are in really dangerous waters. And it didn't happen by mistake, and we didn't just arrive here. It's been going on for a long time. Oh, I forgot to tell you. You know, I did a DNA test, and I found out that I'm 132 millionth Cherokee. So I called my new BFF, Elizabeth Warren, and said, we got to go together to the Cherokee Nation to powwow with those guys. So we got in my Piper Cherokee, and we flew over there, and they weren't too happy about it. We had to beat feet out of there and come back in a huge hurry. It was scary, folks, I got to tell you. They really didn't appreciate us trying to imply that we actually really were Cherokees, fellow Cherokees. Anyway, she's got a lot more benefits from that than I have. Maybe I should apply to Harvard as a minority, too. But it got me to thinking, well, look, if I could decide that I'm going to be a Cherokee, and I have Cherokee blood with no evidence at all, and somebody can decide they want to be biological woman when they're actually a man, why not a different species? And I thought, wow, it would be different to be a transgender aardvark. You know, and maybe if I joined the military, they'd pay for the reconstruction surgery. I have no idea what it would look like. Okay, so way over the top. But my whole point in making that joke is that's where we are today as a culture. That's where we are at a level of insanity that nobody could have even imagined a year ago, right? But it's not a mistake. So I talk about the red-green axis. This is the red. You've seen Marx. You all know who Marx is. You know who Lenin is. Do you know who the guy in the middle is? Sergei Nechayev. Hands. Anybody heard of Sergei? Aha, one guy back there. You don't count, sir. You're behind the table. Anyway, Sergei, and here are the greens, and it's green because that's the primary color for Islamic countries and big color in Islamic tradition. And the axis, this is what you have to understand. It's an asymmetrical military strategy of conquest. That's what it is. What we have in this country with the various Muslim Brotherhood organizations and related organizations and the left is actually a domestic enemy. It's a fifth column. My friend Trevor has talked about these people claiming to be socialists when actually they're communists. Yes, they are not socialists, they are communists. These people are an enemy fifth column in this country. And it's because our laws have been so lax about internal security and actually have been undermined over 50 years by the left, the ACLU, other groups like that, that we come to this position where it's difficult for us to even identify them, let alone go after them. But that's where we are, and we have to face that fact. It is literally a military strategy of conquest, and they're very close. It's a multi-front strategy. Immigration, mass immigration, vote fraud, vilification tactics. That's the big one. The top three right now are mass immigration and this vilification tactic that seeks to shut us down. And finally, vote fraud, which a very able person who I know is going to talk about that in a little bit. And there's other ones. But you've seen it all. So, I'm not going to talk a lot about refugees, but I did want to bring up this one little table because it kind of shows how we think things are and then how they actually are. Now, you can look down the list of the refugee program and see that the refugee numbers have plummeted to the lowest point in history. Now, we only go back to 2000 there, but I have them all the way back to 1980. Those are the lowest in history, and that's all thanks to Donald Trump and his advisor, Steve, what's Steve's last name? Yeah, so Steve Miller, yeah. And so that is something we can really cheer about. And very few are coming from the terrorist nations where we used to be getting overwhelmed by them. But the refugee resettlement program is not the refugee resettlement program. This is the refugee resettlement program. It includes special immigrant visas, Cuban Haitian entrants, asylum seekers, victims of trafficking, and the unaccompanied alien children program, which you are all painfully familiar with, estimated 1 million this year. And that doesn't even get at the diversity visa and all of the other ways they've slimed around to try to circumvent immigration law and bring in as many people as they can because, as they say, demographics is destiny. And that is their strategy. And they have said, I talked to a congressman who said, a Democrat congressman told him, he just said, well, we're not worried, we're just going to wait you out. And over time, demographics is going to win. Now, Trevor, I wasn't going to include these before, but since he mentioned it, I thought I would get specific numbers. He talked about Georgia, Texas, I think Florida, Arizona. Anyway, a lot of us don't realize just how close we are to the margin.
Croc TV.